It's 6:45 a.m. This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. The news edited by Lal Mallavarachi, read by Soundithavam. Japan lauds the president's efforts to overcome the economic crisis. The Japanese foreign minister assured of Japan's support for Sri Lanka's development move continuously. The president hails the government's decision to grant free land rights to the people as a groundbreaking step. Dr. Nalin De Silva's funeral will be held in California today. The GCE ordinary level examination will commence from tomorrow. In foreign news, landslides and massive flooding kill 60 in Brazil. Japan's Foreign Minister Yoko Kamikawa called on President Ranil Wickremesinghe yesterday at the Presidential Secretariat, commending the president's efforts to overcome the economic crisis, as well as pursuing an ambitious economic reform agenda. During the extensive discussion with President Wickremesinghe, Minister Kamikawa outlined her government's intention to resume the yen-denominated loans and the stalled Japanese investment initiatives. The deliberation also encompassed discussions on the signing of the Memorandum of Understanding pertaining to debt restructuring in Sri Lanka. Japan, along with the Paris Club and India, is involved in debt restructuring efforts and negotiations with Sri Lanka. Minister Kamikawa, an ardent supporter of women's rights and gender equality, commended the president's efforts to bring about legislation in the country regarding this vital matter. The president expressed his thanks to the government and the people of Japan for their support for Sri Lanka during the country's hour of need. Minister Kamikawa expressed appreciation over the progress and said that Japan expects Sri Lanka to expedite restructuring arrangements with China and private lenders too. She also assured Japan's support for Sri Lanka's development move continuously. President Ranil Wickremesinghe hails the government's decision to grant free land rights to the people as a groundbreaking step, adding that no other nation has undertaken such a massive initiative to date. The president was speaking at the inaugural event to distribute freehold land deeds to Mahaveli settlers as part of the Urumia program at Royal Central College, Polonnaruwa yesterday. Emphasizing the principle that as one section of the population benefits from the country's economy, another should not be left to suffer, the president underscored that the revolutionary initiative of granting free land titles was launched to uplift the livelihood of the low-income people. He called upon the people to participate in building the economy in collaboration with the government's agricultural modernization program, highlighting the potential for Polonnaruwa to become a key export district in the country. He extended an invitation to all sectors to collaborate in bolstering the nation's economy over the next 3 years to secure a prosperous future for the youth. The Sri Lanka Mahaveli Authority has outlined plans to prepare 204,002 freehold deeds, with ongoing preparations at all regional levels. It is anticipated that 20,178 freehold deeds will be distributed to the Mahaveli settlers by the end of May. It has been decided to restrict local pilgrims from climbing Sripada during the off-season. Consequently, all local pilgrims and travellers will be barred from accessing the Sripada reserve via any route. The Sripada pilgrimage season is set to conclude on the 24th of this month. In a discussion held recently, it has been decided to prohibit local pilgrims from climbing Sripada during this off-season. Accordingly, only foreigners will be permitted to undertake the pilgrimage during this period. This news broadcast comes to you from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. The second meeting of the strategic dialogue between Sri Lanka and the United Kingdom is scheduled to be held in Colombo on the 7th of this month at the senior official level. The meeting will review developments in foreign and security policies, as well as progress in the areas of bilateral engagement, including trade, investment, tourism, climate change, environment protection, migration and maritime cooperation, amongst others. The meeting will also take stock of cooperation by the two countries at international level, including at the United Nations and the Commonwealth. Sri Lanka and the United Kingdom celebrated 75 years of diplomatic relations in 2023. The visit of Her Royal Highness Princess Anne this year to commemorate this occasion underscored the importance of our enduring friendship. The funeral of Dr. Nalin De Silva will be held in California, USA today. Arrangements have been made to conduct a religious ceremony according to Buddhist rituals in Sri Lanka. Several national and international organizations led by the Mahasangha will conduct the religious rites at the All Ceylon Buddhist Congress in Colombo 7 at 3 p.m. today. The chief incumbent of the Dharma Athanaya, Venerable L. Gunavansathera, and the chairman of the Chintana Parshadaya, Venerable Bengamu Nalakathera, will participate. National leaders led by Prime Minister Dinesh Gunawardena are due to participate as well. Dr. De Silva was a distinguished figure in the theoretical physics, philosophy and political analysis. He died on the 1st of May while visiting his son in the US. He was 79 at the time of his demise. That concludes local news.
The main news story is brought to you by Sinhala Mahatmya.
The GCE Ordinary Level Examination will commence from tomorrow. Accordingly, the examination will be held from the 6th to the 15th of May. The admission cards of school candidates should be collected from the principals of the respective schools, while the admission cards of the private candidates have already been posted to their personal addresses. Both the private and government school candidates should have received their admission cards by now. The Examinations Commissioner General Amit Jasundara advised the candidates to contact the Examinations Department if there is any issue relating to the examination. The examination timetable has also been attached to the admission card. Around 387,648 school candidates and 65,331 private candidates will sit the examination. The examination will be held at 3,527 centres, 535 coordination centres, and there will be special examination centres in Tangala, Jaffna and the School for the Deaf and Blind, Ratmalana. This year, 730 children with special needs will sit for the examination, and came to you in the main news story.
The main news story was brought to you by Sinhala Mahatmya.
Moving on to Watchlight, the Meteorology Department continues to issue heat warnings to the public as a result of a heat wave sweeping across Asia, which is affecting hundreds of millions of people from India to Japan. Geology professor of the Peradeniya University, Atula Senaratne, says that research has shown that temperatures have increased in most parts of the country, with the heat exacerbated at least in part by human-caused climate change. The Natural Hazards Early Warning Center stated on its heat index advisory, the temperature felt of the human body is expected to increase up to caution level at some places in the northern, north central and eastern provinces, and that it is expected to increase up to caution level at some places in the western, Sabragama, southern and northwestern provinces, and also in the Monoragala district. That came to you in Watchlight. We move on to a bulletin of world news. Making headlines this morning, landslides and massive flooding kill 60 in Brazil. Israel-Gaza ceasefire talks intensify in Cairo, and Cubans lured to Russian army by high pay and passports. Massive flooding and landslides triggered by days of heavy rain in Brazil's southernmost state have killed 56 people. Officials say another 67 people are missing in Rio Grande, and nearly 25,000 residents have been forced to leave their homes since the storms began last Saturday. At least 500,000 were without power and clean water, with further rainfall expected. Efforts have intensified to secure a deal for a ceasefire in Gaza and the release of hostages, with talks resuming in Cairo yesterday. Hamas said its delegation was travelling in a positive spirit after studying the latest truce proposal. Quoting, "We are determined to secure an agreement in a way that fulfills Palestinians' demands," unquote, it said. The U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken said taking the ceasefire should be a no-brainer for the militant group. Hamas's negotiators have returned to the Egyptian capital to resume long-running talks brokered by Egypt and Qatar that would temporarily pause Israel's offensive in Gaza in return for freeing hostages. Russia has likely been recruiting Cuban nationals to fight in its army in Ukraine, research by the BBC has shown. In September and October 2023, passport details belonging to over 200 Cubans who allegedly joined the Russian army were leaked online by a pro-Ukrainian platform called Inform Napalm. The passport details were obtained, the site said, by hacking the emails of a Russian military recruitment officer in Tula, south of Moscow. A Facebook search has shown that 31 of the names mentioned in the Ukrainian leak match accounts whose owners appear to be in Russia or linked to the Russian army. Back to the headlines of the world news. Landslides and massive flooding kill 60 in Brazil. Israel-Gaza ceasefire talks intensify in Cairo. And Cubans lured to Russian army by high pay and passports. That concludes this bulletin of world news.
Development news.
The Ports, Shipping and Aviation Ministry has formulated plans for the development of the Galle port into a tourist port. The plans entail the construction of 2 backwaters measuring 850 meters and 150 meters. Additionally, the harbour basin will be dredged to a depth of 12.05 meters and a new passenger terminal will be built. That's development news. Sports news up next.
Moving on with sports news.
The ICC has named umpires and coaches for the forthcoming T20 World Championship cricket tournaments. 2 Sri Lankans are included for the tournaments. Accordingly, Ranjan Madugalla and Kumar Dharmasena have also been appointed. 20 umpires and 6 coaches will participate in the tournaments. That's sports news. Business news up next.
Go ekakthiyana youth eකට life එකේ change එකට නියමෙට set වෙන්න as වහගෙන දැකපු හින හැබැ කරන්න youth එකට නියමෙට set වෙන්න friendship එක මෙන්න.
The all new NSB Ithru account. NSB IM, a plan for your dream.
Business news sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
A large number of visitors have arrived in Ella. Therefore, the income of hotels located in Ella has also increased. It has been reported that about 2,000 tourists arrive daily in Ella. That's business news. Economic news up next.
Business news sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
Go ekakthiyana youth එකට life එකේ change එකට නියමෙට set වෙන්න as වහගෙන දැකපු හින හැබැ කරන්න youth එකට නියමෙට set වෙන්න friendship එක මෙන්න.
The all new NSB Ithru account. NSB IM, a plan for your dream.
On to economic news. The Sri Lankan rupee has now become one of the fastest growing currencies in the world, Finance State Minister Ranjit Siambalapitiya said. He pointed out that only in the first 4 months of this year, the rupee had achieved remarkable growth in comparison with all the other currencies in the world. That's economic news.
Weather report.
Showers or thundershowers may occur at a few places in the western and Sabragama provinces and also in the Galle and Matara districts in the evening or night. Misty conditions can be expected at some places in the central and Sabragama provinces during the morning. To conclude this bulletin of news, a recap of the headlines. Japan lauds the president's efforts to overcome the economic crisis. The Japanese foreign minister assures of Japan's support for Sri Lanka's development move continuously. The president hails the government's decision to grant free land rights to the people as a groundbreaking step. Dr. Nalin De Silva's funeral will be held in California today. The GCE ordinary level examination will commence from tomorrow. And landslides and massive flooding kill 60 in Brazil. With that, we conclude this morning's news broadcast. And now it's back to your Sunday morning host and my colleague Dilshan to keep you well entertained this Sunday morning. A very good morning to you, Dilshan, and it's back to you.